Every story that's ever gained widespread adoption across human history follows a consistent storytelling arc called the hero's journey. The hero's journey was codified by a comparative mythologist named Joseph Campbell in the 1960s. Campbell looked at storytelling across all different cultures, geographies, time periods in human history, and what he discovered was that the stories that spread and endured all followed a consistent storytelling structure, the hero's journey. This monomyth, as Campbell called it, has underpinned the stories to even today gain the most traction and the most adoption. You look at narratives like Star Wars, today's Marvel movies, Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, they're all underpinned by the same storytelling arc and structure that we're going to show you how to use in your business. The hero's journey narrative arc can be used by businesses to build stories that are effective, resonate with your audience, and are designed to be spread far and wide. While all 17 components of Campbell's arc are important for building effective stories, there are 5 that are most essential for your business to define and to focus on as it builds its brand story. The broken world in which the story takes place, the hero at the story's center, the mentor that hero encounters on their journey, the magical gift provided by that mentor to the hero, and of course the mended world that exists at the story's conclusion where everyone lives happily ever after. All effective stories begin in some kind of fundamentally broken world. Think about the setting of all the great stories that you know. The world suffers from some state of injustice and disrepair. Audiences perceive those things and they see them as wrongs that must be righted. Creating that sense of balance and restoring the world to harmony is what gives the story inertia and forward momentum. Living inside that broken world is the narrative's protagonist, the hero of the story. Think about great fictional stories that have endured over time. The hero is always some kind of powerless outsider, a teenager, an orphan, someone who's on the fringes of society. The reason for that is because audiences empathize with the vulnerabilities of those characters. They see the same weaknesses in the character that they feel within themselves, and it connects them to the story. They feel the character's wins and losses as they would feel them for their own, and they participate in the catharsis that takes place in the narrative. It creates adhesion and connection to the story. In any great story, somewhere towards the end of the first act, that hero will encounter a wiser, older character who reveals to them how much more is possible within them. This character, the story's mentor, is not there to move the narrative forward themselves, but rather to reveal to the main character how much more they could achieve and their unique ability to right the wrongs that exist within the world. Great mentors don't solve problems for heroes. They reveal to the hero the strength and the power that they have within themselves to solve that problem on their own. It's a role of mentorship, it's a role of empowerment, and it's the role that your brand needs to play in its story for it to be effective. The mentor always provides the hero with some type of magical gift that they can use on their journey. And that gift, it might be guidance, but more often than not, it's a physical talisman that the main character uses to go off and defeat the source of evil that exists in the world. It might be a lightsaber, the ring of power, or even a pair of ruby red slippers. Great magical gifts are used by the hero with the mentor's guidance to defeat the evil that's plaguing the broken world at the beginning of the story, where the character receives spoils of victory and ultimately returns home with them to heal the world and get to that place where all great stories end, the mended world, where we all live happily ever after. Those 5 critical components, a broken world within which your customers reside, the understanding of them as the centerpiece of your story, your role as their mentor and guide, your product and service as the magical gift that they can wield to defeat the problems they face at the beginning of the story, and ultimately the resolution that can only come through your partnership are the foundational elements of what will make an effective and powerful story for your brand. While all great stories leverage the 17 components of the hero's journey narrative arc, what's powerful about these 5 critical components for your brand story is that they translate very clearly to concepts that you've already identified in your own business. The broken world of the story is the pain point your customers experience before they begin to work with you. It's the wrong that exists in their organization and that only you can help them right. The hero of the story, that's your customer. It might be a demographic profile, it might be a psychographic profile, but the hero is fundamentally who your brand seeks to serve. The magical gift is your product or service. When you describe it, make sure you think about it exactly that way, magical. Your product, what you've developed, it's not just a collection of code or maybe a piece of hardware. It's a powerful tool, a talisman that when wielded by your customers and under your capable guidance, allows them to right those wrongs that exist in their world and restore things to a state of harmony. Effective stories are always customer-centric. The biggest mistake that brands often make is they want to march into a room and announce, look how great we are, look at all the things that we do. For you to build a customer-centric story, you have to step back and you have to listen to your customer. Understand what it is that plagues them, the pain points that they experience, put them at the center of the narrative. To build an effective customer-driven story, you must see things from the perspective of your audience. You know what makes your company great. You know your differentiators, you know the secret sauce behind your product. Your customers may not. Think about how they perceive the problems that they experience. Think about how they perceive their experience with your product or service. That's the perspective from which the story must be built. Your story is not going to be about necessarily the true things that you know happen behind the scenes to help you deliver that promise. It's going to be about the way your customers experience it and understand it on their own. To effectively build and discover your brand story, the first and most critical thing you have to do is clearly identify who your hero is. Checkpoint Surgical is a medical device company that builds a nerve monitoring device that helps surgeons execute better patient outcomes during certain surgeries. When Checkpoint first engaged Woden, it had built its initial positioning all around those terrific outcomes for patients. And they were powerful. People who had better ranges of motion, better recoveries, who hadn't suffered some of the downsides of invasive surgeries where nerves can be nicked or damaged. As Woden began to work with Checkpoint, what we actually discovered was that the hero of their story was not that patient. It was the surgeon conducting the surgery in the first place. Oftentimes, the heroes of our stories may not be the people that we initially perceive them to be. But without that focus on the customer, without that understanding and empathy of the world that they experience, it's virtually impossible to build a story that they're going to connect and build an emotional connection with. To start building your story, listen. You have to approach this process with a degree of humility, a degree of learning. Conduct interviews, ask questions, be open to feedback that you haven't heard before about how people perceive the value of your product. You may discover that the decision maker is different than you anticipated. Perhaps the reasons why they buy your product and service are not the same values that you see yourself. That customer perspective is what will unlock the story that you are trying to create. In the case of Checkpoint Surgical, shifting the story away from the patient and towards the surgeon empowered the actual decision maker. When patients come in for a surgery, they're looking for their surgeon to give them expert advice, expert guidance, and to deliver the outcomes that they crave. Checkpoint, by positioning itself as the mentor and guide of the surgeon, allowed itself to become a critical component of that physician's toolkit, helping achieve the outcomes that they want to deliver to their patient in the first case. Building an effective brand story is about empathy. You must put yourself in the shoes of your customer. What are the pains that they experience on a daily basis? What's the information or help that they need from you to right the wrongs that exist in their world? And how is your product going to help them do that? The discovery process for the Checkpoint Surgical brand story began by speaking with who they thought the customer was in the first place, patients. What we discovered during that research phase was that the patients looked to their surgeon for the type of expertise and guidance that Checkpoint itself was looking to provide. That allowed us to shift the narrative and shift the story away from how much Checkpoint could help patients to how Checkpoint could deliver the outcomes that surgeons were seeking to provide their patients. When Checkpoint shifted its story from speaking to patients to speaking to surgeons, not only was it able to more effectively get into the healthcare systems where it needed to do business, it was able to more effectively achieve its original purpose in the first place of improving patient outcomes in surgeries by preserving the full function of nerves.